Hello and welcome to the MA Media Communications and Critical Practice Open Day. So my name is Sara Marino. I'm the course leader for the MA, and this is picture of myself, if you will. But welcome again to this open day. I will go through the key information related to the course. Some practical information on how the course is structured, what kind of units we deliver, the assessment types that we have, and some housekeeping information as well. And then towards the end of this presentation, there will be space and time for Q&A. So if you have any question, please keep a note of them, and I will try to answer all of them at the best of my ability. So just a brief context with regards to London College of Communication. London College of Communication is one of the colleges that is part of University of the Arts London, which counts a diverse body of 18,000 students from over 130 countries. Generally speaking, University of the Arts London College, being part of it, is ranked second in the world for art and design, according to the 2021 World University ranking. And so it is a very kind of inspiring and exciting space to learn and to grow as a students and as professionals. I am the course leader of this master. This master is part of the media school, which has a comprehensive portfolio, including disciplines in publishing, advertising, public relations, media communication, photography, and journalism. So it is quite an exciting place to develop and to nurture and to cultivate your creativity. And I'm very proud to be the course leader for this particular master. So hopefully the information that I will be providing today will help you to make a decision. So, just a few information and a few more details on the course. And also some more information about myself. I'm a senior lecturer in communications and media. I teach on a variety of units on this particular course. And my specific expertise is on media, digital media particularly, and migration. But on this course, I teach on a variety of subjects that I will be outlining in more detail throughout this presentation. But this MA that I'm sharing with other colleagues integrates more practically, integrates the study of media theory with practice, as the title says. And so as a student of this MA, you will be encouraged to think critically about the role, importance, and location of media in the digital age. And also you will be prompted to express your ideas and think about problems and think about solutions through a range of creative media practices. And throughout this presentation, you will see some images of the previous cohorts, events, and work that we had together and that they did. This particular photo that you see here is from the 2018-19 cohorts. As part of our units, one unit called the Media Migration and Mobility, we went to the Migration Museum as part of kind of an external visit, complementary to the topics and discussions that we had in that unit. And I was leading that unit back then, and so I was very happy to take that particular cohort to visit such a significant and relevant museum. So as a student on this course, you should also expect a range of external visits. Unfortunately, we had to pause them during the pandemic, and as we moved back to the college. But I'm expecting these visits to resume in the near future. So in terms of teaching and in terms of how we deliver this course, you should expect high quality interactive teaching, which take different forms, including lectures, seminars, workshops, and as I said, external visits as well. You should also expect to have a staff, research active staff teaching you a broad range of units. So usually our teaching on this course particularly is very heavily informed by the research expertise of our members of staff. And usually we tend to have kind of interactive activities and conversations and discussions that also build from your own background and understanding of media. So you should expect an interactive conversation with the academic staff teaching on this particular course. Related to teaching as well, what we expect students to do is to work on dynamic project briefs and dynamic assessments. We'll give you some examples in a moment. We tend to keep this course as relevant as possible to what is currently going on in the world. So you should expect some kind of a social, cultural, and political component informing our teaching, seminars, and workshops. You will also be introduced to a range of creative practices, including video production, blogging, podcasting, and digital image production. So the image that you see here is a slide from a podcast presentations day. So as part of one of our units, Analyzing Contemporary Media, students have to create a podcast. And at the end of the unit, the students present their podcast to us. So we listen to a whole range of podcasts. It is quite a fun and exciting activity with the students. And this is just one example among many of creative skills that you should expect to learn. So we have alongside our members of the academic staff, we also have visiting practitioners teaching those specific practical skills, for example, podcasting. And so for this particular unit, students had different weeks of workshops with a podcaster and journalist, as well as a series of talks by expert podcasters. And also as part of the college, you have access to a whole range of technical facilities and spaces, and access to technical resources such as cameras and video cameras as well, and a whole range of other technical equipment that you can rent and you can borrow as a student at LCC, including a podcasting kit. Something that also would like to mention, which is particularly important and is quite unique to this course, is that as members of the media school, more generally, you have access to a creative content suite. The creative content suite has been is a kind of a recent addition to the course and to the media school more generally. We have a film and video studio where students can use technical cameras and technical equipment, and also short videos. And also we have a sound booth where students recorded their podcasts, and this is completely new, is state of the art, and students had really a lot of fun recording their podcast in the sound booth that we have. And this is specific only for our media school students. And then also as part of this course, we offer opportunities to do more practice-based works and projects through collaboration, either with students from other courses or with partners outside of the university. So this year, my students have collaborated with an external partner called the Future Narratives Lab. We talk about this collaboration and partnership a little bit more in more detail later on. But just to give you a sense of the number of opportunities that we give students to engage with media, not just from a theoretical perspective, but also from a practical point of view. Bear in mind that this course is quite theoretical in nature, so we are quite intense in terms of media theories and cultural theories, but we complement this orientation towards theory with some practice-based opportunities. And you also have opportunities for networking with industry professionals. As part of one of our units, professional industry practice, you will meet industry partners and you will have an opportunity to network with them. Also, our students this year, towards the end of the summer term, will have an opportunity to network with other media professionals, as I'm organizing a media career day where students will have the opportunity to network and to present their CVs and portfolios to media professionals. And as I said, our lecturers are also heavily involved in research, and so you should expect research-infused teaching, as well as the opportunity to connect with visiting practitioners. We have visiting practitioners teaching podcasting, but also visiting practitioners teaching photo skills and video skills. And of course, we connect with other practitioners and experts in a whole different variety of practical skills. At the moment, we are still in a situation of blended learning. We have been in a sort of blended learning mode since the autumn term, which meant that we delivered a mix of on-site and online activities. And also this meant that studios, workshops, libraries, and other facilities only became fully accessible to students recently. So we are obviously monitoring the situation, and obviously we don't know what is going to happen in October this year. But at the moment, we are slowly coming back to a situation of normality, to a situation of full on-site teaching. And I'm more than happy to answer your questions about that during the Q&A. So at the moment, we are still experimenting with blended learning, with a mix of online and on-site activities. But in the summer term these years, we'll go back to full on-site learning. And we kind of expect this situation to be consolidated, unless obviously things will change. And so obviously keep an eye on the website, as the university obviously will follow government guidance to protect the safety of staff as well as your safety. And again, this is another picture from the 2018-19 cohort. We had a Christmas social event, and again, it's just a nice opportunity to connect with the students outside of the time that we have in class. So this is just to give you a glimpse of how the course runs and what teaching is scheduled to happen and when. So as you start the autumn term, you will attend 2 units, Analyzing Contemporary Media and Media Culture and Economy. And these are the 2 units that run as soon as you start the course. The S highlighted in yellow that you see there is just an indication of the deadline, so the assessment deadlines. So in other words, you can see that Analyzing Contemporary Media has 2 different assignments, whereas Media, Culture and Economy in 2 different weeks. whereas media, culture, and economy has also 2 assignments, but both of them will be delivered on the same day. And so this is not particularly relevant to you right now, but just to give you a sense of the schedule of the assessments deadlines. And I will also go through each of the units' key content in a moment. So analyzing contemporary media and media, culture, and economy run in the autumn term, and usually students have either 2 or 3 units running at the same time. So after media, culture, and economy and analyzing contemporary media, students go on a winter break. As we are back in the spring term, we have 3 units running. Collaborative unit, which has only 1 assessment. Media, mobility, and culture, which continues to run in the summer term. And professional industry practice, which also continues to run in the summer term. And then after the spring term, we have a break, and the students come back to uni, to LCC, for the summer term final leg of the course. During the summer term, we have, again, media, mobility, and culture running from the spring term, professional industry practice, and major project. So a couple of things. Professional industry practice in the summer term is mainly focused on independent learning, and it's mainly focused, as I will explain later on your own placement. And so there won't be any on-site teaching in the summer term for professional industry practice, but you will have the time to engage in external placements in that period. Major project starts in the summer term and continues, as you can see there, in the autumn term of the following year. In respect to how you when you started. A major project you see is the heaviest unit that we have. It counts for 60 credits. And major project is really a mix of on-site teaching, so traditional classes, workshops, as well as one-to-one meetings with your dissertation supervisor. And in major project, you really have the liberty and freedom to select a topic of your choice, which could be theory-based or more practical and more creative, as again, I will explain in a moment. So the whole course really runs for about a year and a half. In between the moment that you start and the moment that you submit your final major project. But again, you shouldn't expect to attend more than 3 units per term. Also, as you can see there, we tend to organize assessments so that they don't overlap with each other. So you will have the time to concentrate on your projects with less stress as possible. In the autumn term, where major project continues, you will overlap with the new cohort of students. So when you start in October, you will have, there will be another cohort working at the same time, which is the cohort that is working, will be working on their major project and will be about to leave the master. I hope that's clear, but any questions, please do let me know. As I said, in terms of assessment, we try to be as creative as possible and as practical as possible. So you will see a mix of traditional assessments, including essays, shorter or longer essays, but also more creative types of assessment, including audiovisual presentations, such as podcast, portfolio, creative artifacts, as well as major project, which, as I said, could be theory-based or practice-based project. Approximately 15% of assessment are group work, and so you will be asked to work with other students on some collaborative task, and 85% are individual assessment. Excluding major project, 60% or so are theory-based and 40% are practice-based. So as I said, this course is theory-based predominantly, but there are some components of critical practice which are more practical and creative. And the photo that you see here is again from the 2018 and 19 cohorts, which presented and discussed some of the artifacts they created for one of our units, Media, Mobility and Culture. And for that particular event, we went to the London Buddhist Centre, which is very close to LCC, and we had a morning of presentations and discussions, lunch together, and then a sort of a conversation opportunity in the afternoon. So it was a really fun day out. The reason why you see so many pictures from the 2018 and 19 is because obviously the pandemic then happened, so we couldn't really host social events over the past 2 years, but we are slowly going back to normality. And this is again another example of a practical artifact that one of our students created for Media, Mobility and Culture in 2018-19. Particularly, this student decided to look at the topic of digital privacy and surveillance, and so she created a sort of kind of 3D sort of representation of sort of a urban space filled with technologies of surveillance and technologies related to users' privacy. So just an example to show you that our students have created a whole range of practical artifacts, from podcasts to very practical objects such as this one, and we tend to leave students as free as possible to create. And this was a perfect example of a student really reimagining some very theoretical concepts and transforming them into something practical and highly creative. So just to give you a sense of what we teach. And so let's have a look at what we do in each unit. So as I mentioned, the first unit that you meet in the autumn term is Analyzing Contemporary Media, which is usually the unit that I've been teaching as a senior lecturer and as a course leader. And this particular unit introduces you to some key theories around media and communication. So because we know that students come from different academic background and professional practice, this is where we tend to give students a sort of ground understanding of some of the most important theories around media and communication, so that from that point onwards we can build up. So you become familiar with some of the foundational frameworks and debates that we are going to keep discussing in more sophisticated way throughout the rest of the course. Some of the topics that we look at include media publics, affective publics, representation, identity, and sustainability in media. And for this particular unit, students submit 2 pieces of work. One is a traditional essay, which is the first assignment that students submit, and then a podcast. So as part of this unit, we have a whole series of media workshops with our visiting practitioner and podcaster. So you will be introduced to the basics of creating a podcast. And then this year, last year, we also had a series of talks provided by expert podcasters and public podcasters, which really helped students to learn how to be more creative when creating their podcast. Podcast is group work, so you will be assigned to a group, and together you will be realizing a podcast. Podcast has to connect to any of the weekly content that we do discuss on the unit. And these are just two examples of podcasts that our students have created more recently. The one that you see on the Afghan girl was created by this current cohort, and it investigated the politics of image by looking at and critically discussing the Afghan girl portrayed by Steve McCurry. And the other podcast that you see is very different, is linked to our discussions around identity, and the group looked at the legend of Shang-Chi and the legend of the Ten Rings, and they use some of our theories around identity to critically contextualize this example of popular culture. And as I said, the unit ended with a podcast presentations, which was really fun because we got to listen to all of the group's podcasts, and it was an alternative way of discussing theories in more user-friendly and lighter content. The second unit that you attend is Media Culture and Economy, which is taught by one of my colleagues, Rebecca Bramall. In this unit, she explores the organization and financing of media industries. And again, you will be introduced to some key foundational frameworks, political and cultural economy theories. You will also look at some relevant and significant case studies around digital economy, branding, and advertising. And again, this unit is assessed in a kind of a blended way. You will end very creatively. You will have to prepare a learning journal, but also a content film, a branded content film. So for this unit, you will work alongside another visiting practitioner and a filmmaker who is going to teach you how to produce, how to shoot films. And you will have access to our creative content suite and film studio to be able to produce these outputs. And this example is, this screenshot is from a branded content film produced by the current cohort on Olio, the food sharing app. And with these two units, you end the autumn term and you come back to LCC in the spring term with 3 more units. One of these 3 units that you will attend is collaborative unit. And this is where you will collaborate either with other students from advertising and public relations or with an external partner from the industry. And this particular unit is assessed with a portfolio, which usually includes a response to an industry brief and a self-reflection on the collaborative process. So the screenshot that you see there is from last year collaborative work with an advertising agency, and students were asked to produce a video and a communication strategy for the advertising agency. So what happens is that the partner, the industry, gives the students a brief, an industry brief, and students in group will have to find a way to respond to that brief and come up with a creative solution for the industry. So more recently, my students have collaborated with, not with other students, but with an industry client called Future Narratives Lab. Future Narratives is a a not-for-profit organization who mainly looks at narratives of public understanding and helps organizations to better frame their communication strategies. So for collaborative unit, the partner designed a brief which is designed specifically for you. And the brief, called Big Data and Technology, asks students to rethink our relationship with data and technologies and come up with a creative output that would summarize in what ways can we find a better relationship between us users and big data and technologies. This unit is finishing tomorrow, actually, but students, and we had a day of presentations last week where students presented their communication strategies to me and to our industry client. And so we were all together, we had a lunch together, we had the presentations, and students came up with a different set of projects, including mobile applications, social media marketing strategies, digital app, and a whole range of other practical projects addressing the relationship between users and data. So some groups looked at digital dating, other groups looked at privacy, other groups looked at the problem of security when when using transport apps, and it was a really incredible opportunity for students to pitch their ideas to me and to the industry. We also had careers and enterprise with us on that day to give students very practical suggestions on how to pitch their ideas to external audiences. Now we are planning to make these collaborative units projects more visible through a whole range of social media promotions. If you follow us on Instagram, you will see some of these examples there, but we're also planning to create a dedicated post online, and our partner Future Narratives Lab is also planning to create a dedicated blog post celebrating our students' work. And so these are all opportunities for you and for our students to gain public visibility and to have some practical projects to showcase to your future employers. And then moving on, in the spring term, you will attend Media, Mobility and Culture, which is a long unit, so it runs throughout the spring and summer, and is co-taught by myself and one of my colleagues, Barpin Emre. And this particular unit explores the notions of space, place, and mobility through media. And so in this unit, we look at the notion of network city, the tourist gaze, the digital refugee, along many other topics. But essentially, the focus of this unit is to explore the relation between media, spaces, places, mobilities, and culture. And why this spring term is more concentrated on mass media and digital media, the summer term, which I'm running, mainly focuses on immersive technologies and human mobility, as well as the mobility of objects. So we will be collaborating with practitioners from the virtual reality team, as well as other practitioners, mainly looking at the more interactive side of technologies, which is something very exciting. As part of this unit, you will submit 2 pieces of work, a traditional essay and a creative artifact. So students will be asked to produce something creative in the form of film or photography or a digital artifact, exploring one of the topics that we discuss in the unit and with the help of our visiting practitioners. So as part of this unit, you have traditional one-to-one, traditional lectures and seminars, as well as media workshops with our visiting practitioners in photography and in film. And this particular screenshot is from a portfolio, a photo book created by one of our students from the 2021 cohort, Miata. She created a photo book with a selection of images of people and places that reminded her of her identity. And so she explored the notion of identity from the perspective of physical places and people. And she looked at how her identity kind of changed and was affected by geographical locations, as well as contact with specific individuals. The other unit that runs in the spring term is professional industry practice, which perhaps is we collaborative is the most practice-based unit. In this unit, you explore, from a theoretical point of view, you explore debates about work, labor, and employment in the creative industry. Also, as part of the unit, you have an opportunity to conduct a placement, a work placement, with an external organization. And you will be supported in that by our placement manager, who is going to deliver one-to-one sessions and group sessions, providing support in terms of securing a placement. You will also have a series of industry talks. So you will meet industry speakers, and you will have a chance to connect with them during the unit. This unit is also assessed with sort of a report that outlines the conditions of your work placement. So you will be offered a chance to reflect on what it means to work in the creative industry, but also the things that you learn during the work placement. You don't have to do a work placement if you don't, but you can conduct a work placement throughout the summer term. So that's also an opportunity for you. In the past, our students have gone to the BBC, for example, DAZED, Grazia, the United Nations, Tonga Digital, which is a digital advertising agency, and many other organizations that you see listed here. And it's also nice. We also tend to invite our former students to talk to us about their placement experiences. So it's a nice opportunity to connect with other students as well. And finally, major project, which is the last unit that you will be attending in the summer term and in the fourth term, in the autumn term that continues. And this is where you, in a way, hopefully have decided to kind of bring a topic of your interest to kind of a longer fruition in a way. And this is where you are free to develop a particular topic in much more depth. Major projects could be, final dissertations could be theoretical in nature, or could be more practice-based. One of my students who just graduated, she realized a short documentary on identity and transnational identity. But other students have done more theory-based works. The photo that you see here, the image that you see here, is from sort of a magazine created by one of our most recent students who just graduated, Juliana. She created this sort of manifesto called Under Layers of Complexity, a non-binary manifesto, where she looked at the relation between gender and brands. And And so again, this is just to say that you are very welcome to explore any of the topic that you're interested in from different perspectives. If you decide to do a practice-based dissertation, you will be allocated a visiting practitioner alongside a more theoretical focused dissertation supervisor. So major project initially runs in the summer term with a series of traditional lectures and seminars. And then during the summer break, you're expected to work on your initial ideas. So by the time that you are back in the autumn, you will meet with your supervisor, you will be allocated a supervisor, and you will be working independently with the supervisor on your major project. And this is another example, another one of my students. She created, well, Victoria, she created again a magazine on sustainable fashion. And the good thing about doing practice-based projects at LCC is that you have access to facilities. And so you will access to printing facilities as well as more digital facilities. So you will really have an opportunity to grow and to discover your skills and talents in multiple ways. But other topics that our students have engaged with include celebrity shaming on Twitter, K-pop music, science journalism in the COVID-19 pandemic, which was also covered by the BBC, the role of social media in the dissemination of wellness culture, influencers as well, blockchain, brand activism. So we really do engage, our students really engage with a broad variety of topics that build from the units that you would have attended throughout the year. But of course, this is also the space where you can be a little bit more creative in terms of what you want to work on. And I've mentioned facilities throughout my presentation. It's just a rundown of the facilities that we have at LCC, including 3D workshops, the Creative Technology Lab, the digital space that you see there, the kit room where students can borrow technical equipment such as cameras, libraries, of course, photography studios, video studios, sound recording studios, printing facilities, printmaking, and many others. What happens after you graduate? Our students leave for a different range of jobs, from kind of more technical jobs to media production, media management, media research, but also more creative jobs, including in films, in television, in publishing, in journalism. Others have decided to then move to a PhD study. So it really depends on what your ambitions and what your interests are. But this master really gives you opportunity to cultivate and to really understand what is it you really want to do after you graduate. And these are just some of the works and jobs our students have secured after graduation. And you can see again from here the variety of jobs and the variety of occupations that our students go into. And some of our students will then call back to meet the new cohort. And so you will have an opportunity to also discuss with other students what their experience was. And this is usually a very nice opportunity to connect with students like you. Our postgraduate students also have access to the Postgraduate Hub, which is meant to support students doing their master study, but also provide employment advice and support and guidance. And so you will connect with a whole set of resources, both within our master, but also more college-wide. We also have an industry mentoring scheme for students, and we also always look for opportunities for our students to connect with external partners during in our units as well as outside. So what we always ask students is to be as proactive as possible. So while we obviously do our best to make you aware of all the opportunities that you have access to, it's also important for you to keep an eye open and to stay proactive and to get the most out of what LCC and UAL have to offer. If you go online and you check LCC postgraduate show, and particularly our MA, you will see the different works that our students have produced more recently. So students have also an opportunity to showcase their creative works in the final postgraduate show, which again hopefully will come back to being fully on site. I'm sure some of you will have questions about how to apply. We will need your personal details, of course, your details about your education and qualification details, ACV also outlining your employment history, a personal statement, and your highest graded essay. With regard to the personal statement, we don't have a word count, so usually 500 is the standard word count, but you can go, you can write more or less. That's entirely up to you. But we also want to receive your highest graded essay, just to have a sense of your writing skills and your critical skills as well, critical analysis skill. But of course, you will find more information about applications in the dedicated page. And if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them in the Q&A. We usually require applicants to have HU 1 degree in your relevant subject. That is because obviously, as I've mentioned, this course is quite heavy on theory, and so you need to demonstrate that you have some sort of understanding and knowledge of media theory. And so if your previous degree is not focused on media, please do explain in the personal statement why you are a suitable candidate for this master. And so I invite you to think about how your previous knowledge, how your academic and professional experiences make you an ideal candidate for this master, which, as I said, is quite heavy on media theory. So we do expect students to have some previous knowledge of that. In your personal statement, and this is myself, and also my colleague Rebecca, with a student from the 2018-19 cohort. Again, another social event that we went to just have some fun outside of class. So in the personal statement, tell us about you and why you want to study media and communications, why you want to study for this course, and make sure that you address the selection criteria: academic or professional background in a relevant subject, evidence of your ability to foster a critical and analytical approach, and that's where the essay is quite helpful. Some evidence of collaborative skills, because you will be required to engage in collaborative work. Experience of working in the media, culture, or creative industries, if you have any. And an experience of creating or producing media content. And again, this is because we will be delivering a series of media workshops. So we want to know what your previous understanding and familiarity with producing media content is. UAL offers a range of scholarships, awards, and funds, and so more information will be provided to you. And again, there is more information on the website, and here's as well is the contact details in case you want to know more about scholarships and funding. And I think I've talked a lot already. I'm just going to leave this slide up with some relevant content details. And please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you,
so my name's Dan. I've been watching along in the background, and I'm going to be the voice of your questions. So in your control panel, you should see that you have a questions box. And then if you have any questions, then obviously do feel free to put them in there. I'll start with the questions that we have in. So Sarah, you talked about facilities and access to facilities. Are students taught how to use those facilities, like photography, for example, if they wanted to use those but aren't experienced in them?
Yes, so that's a good question. So usually what happens is that we give students a sort of induction to the facilities that we have at LCC. And so you will have an understanding, first of all, at the very beginning of your master, an understanding of what is available to you. And then since the very start of the course, and particularly in media, culture, and economy, let's say you want to learn more about photography or video, you will already engage with our visiting practitioners. So you will already receive some practical knowledge since the very beginning of your master. So as part of the course, we deliver a series of media workshops that are focused on very specific skills. But of course, in your own time, you will have an opportunity to access other facilities in your own time. Obviously, being a master program, it means that there is also a component of independent learning that we expect students to go through. And so we provide practical skills and workshops, but of course, with all the facilities that we have, you're more than welcome to explore other facilities and other skills and other workshops as well. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. Someone has asked, so how do they submit examples of their visual practice already? So they're talking about photography, graphic design, and film to demonstrate their experience of producing media content. So they're asking, how do they submit that to you?
Right, in the personal statement, I believe, in the application, I believe.
Yes, yeah. So there isn't a formal portfolio for the course.
Yeah. So so if you have any evidence of engagement with critical theories or something more creative, you can upload them in your application. There are some very basic documents that we need to go through. So your CV, your transcripts, your academic transcripts, your personal statement, and the essay, for example, and your CV. But of course, if there's more that you want me to look at, then by all means, you can upload this evidence. It could be just a link, or it could be a PDF. That's up to you. So, or you can talk about it in your personal statement and provide a link there. So there are multiple ways to do that.
Perfect, thank you. Someone has asked, who do we contact about deferring English language requirements due to English being a first language? And I wonder if this is an admissions question. This person has maybe already made an application.
Yes. So this is a question for admissions or general inquiries. It's not, obviously, I don't personally handle language requirements. You do have to have an IELTS, but because I don't handle language requirements, this is not a question I can answer. But you can contact admissions and general inquiries to have clearer answers to that question.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. The general inquiries email address, they'll forward it onto the relevant admissions department. Or if you could reply to your question in the chat and tell me whether you believe you qualify as a home or international student, I can get you the relevant email address as well, but I'd need to know which fee status you apply to before I give you an email address. But general inquiries is the first place to start.
Yeah.
And then they can forward it on. So someone has asked about the application process. So after submitting an application, is there an interview? What's the process after you make your application?
There is no interview. We don't hold interviews. So what happens is that we go through all the applications and additional documents that you will upload, and then we make a decision, and you will be informed by that decision by our technical team and admission team. So you will receive either a reason for your application not being put forward or an offer. So that's the process, but we don't hold interviews. So make the most out of your personal statement, I would say.
Perfect, thank you. And like you already mentioned as well, if there are other things you want to upload to support your application outside of the personal statement, you have the option to do that, like you've already said.
Yes, yes.
So someone has asked, would we have the opportunity to work in fashion image making if we were interested?
So as part of the course, and as part of this course, which is Media Communications and Critical Practice, we don't re-engage with fashion as such, in a way, just because that's not really the identity of our course. But that doesn't mean that you won't be able to engage with this topic if you're interested in this topic. And so, for example, one of my students that I supervise for a major project, she was really interested in fashion and sustainability. And so for her major project, she realized she designed a fashion magazine focused on the topic and the issue of sustainability in fashion. And so what we did was she obviously learned some practical skills in terms of printing and in terms of digital making throughout the course, and then she applied those skills and this set of knowledge to her major project, which was focused on fashion, because that was her interest. So if you're interested in fashion, by all means, you will be able to cultivate that interest for your major project. But in terms of teaching or in terms of teaching opportunities, we don't really engage as much with this topic, because that's not really the identity of our course, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you so much. Someone has asked, what is the final deadline to submit applications? And if you're not sure, I have an answer.
Go for it. Go for the answer.
Yeah, so there's 2 application deadlines at LCC. One has already passed and another one is on its way. And it's the 13th of April is the second round of, well, it's the deadline for applications. There is an opportunity that you can submit an application after that. However, I wouldn't recommend it, as there is a potential for courses to be full. And if we get so many applications that we no longer accept anyone on the course, we can close the course from that point. But you can guarantee your application to be considered if you make an application before the 13th of April, whereas if it's after, you risk that the course will close. So that's a long way of saying the 13th of April is your application deadline. Someone has asked, how many students are typically on the course?
It's a good question. So typically our course is quite small, meaning around 30 to 35 students. That's typically our size, which is a decent size in terms of being able to do some really meaningful collaborative work with the students, but also in a way still allows for meaningful conversations and dedicated support to our students. So 30 to 35 is usually our cohort size. This cohort is 28 students. So that's the range usually.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. We've actually reached the end of all of the questions that we have in. We do have a tiny bit more time.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to ask any more questions, and I'm just going to sort of ramble a little bit to see if we get any more in. But if we don't get any more in the time that I finish speaking, then we can obviously bring the session to a close. What I would also say as well is that this isn't the only opportunity that you have to ask any questions to LCC. You've obviously got those email addresses on your screen, so do please make a note of those. And if you have any, you can always follow up. Someone has said, how many applications do you receive versus those sort of number of places? And I don't know if you would know the exact number of applications you receive, Sarah.
Hundreds. I don't know the exact number, but hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of focus on sort of the ratio of applications to places and all that sort of stuff. But I think just focus on your personal statement and all of the things that you provide to us, and then you're giving yourself the best opportunity that way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we do, again, it's quite competitive because obviously we want to have a cohort of students that can really engage with conversations and discussions on a very kind of sophisticated level. And so, as Daniel said, do concentrate on your personal statement and do make sure that in the personal statement you really showcase yourself and your work, and you really make a case about how I should consider your application for this master. What can you bring to this master, but also what you expect as well from this master. And so do let us know what your background is, what your interests are, what you want to do after graduation, and also how your, as I said before, how your academic background and your professional background make you an ideal candidate for this particular master. So have a look at the information that we have on the website for this master. Do your research, look for the kind of practical works that our students have done in the past. Just have a sense of what the course is all about. That's my best advice. Do your research and make sure that you tailor your personal statement to what we offer on this course. This will really set you apart from the other candidates and applicants.
Thank you, Sarah. And we'll make this the last question.
Okay.
Has there been any students who have explored music and the music industry on the course?
Well, so I've joined LCC in 2018, so I can't speak for the students who attended the course before I arrived. I don't know, as far as I know, not music specifically, but theater. We did have a student, one of my students actually, who did a major project on augmented reality and theater audiences during the pandemic, particularly. But also, I'm pretty sure. Well, another student did a major project on podcasting, and I'm sure that someone also engaged with this particular industry. I don't see why not, because that would really reflect the identity of our students as well. So you will be more than welcome to engage with those sorts of conversation if you want. Yes.
Perfect, thank you. And I know I said that was the last question, but someone has just asked another one, and it seems like quite a good one. They've asked, in terms of the essay that they submit, does it need to be something that's been reviewed by an academic in the past, or can it be something that they've written on their own merits or for their own reasons? Does it need to be a piece of schoolwork, I suppose?
Yes, I would prefer to see that, mainly because it gives me a sense of your engagement with critical theories around media and culture. Also, usually academic works are referenced, so that also gives me an idea of what kind of works you engaged with while writing that particular piece. So I would prefer academic essays, or I mean, as the guideline said, your highest graded essay. Of course, if you don't have any, then submit what you have. But I would prefer academic works because that's really what, as a master program, this is what we also expect you to do, academic works, and so that would work best, I would say.
Yeah, I suppose if you look at what the application is actually asking for, your highest graded work may not be the piece of work that you like the best, I suppose, but your highest graded work is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is indeed all of the questions. So
great.
Thank you so much for your time, Sarah, for going through the presentation. I hope everyone found it really useful. I thought it was very thorough, gave a lot of information on the course. Like I've already said before, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to use the general inquiries is probably the best place to start. But yeah, just to say thank you for attending. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for attending.
If you have any, yeah, just over to you for any last words, and then I can finish the session.
Thank you for your help, Daniel, and thank you all for attending the session, which I hope was helpful in making your decision, and good luck with your applications as well. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.